Today we are sitting down with Juan Morales, who is a full-time creator, and myself, Nicole Shapiro, who is a freelance creator. And we're going to be talking about 4 major things that are maybe challenges or benefits to either of our jobs.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Shout out to Matt and Connor from Viva Studios. If you are in Etobicoke and looking for a studio space, they have a fantastic space here. We're sitting in this beautiful, huge cyclorama here. I'm a very visual person, so when it comes to like bookkeeping and numbers, like it's not it for me. It's icky. Like a lot of it comes from the lack of education I had going into it. Like I literally just threw it at the wall and was like, I'm gonna freelance. I don't know what that means, but like
trial by fire, throw you into the wolves.
Yeah, it really just hit me. I'm like, okay, well, I have to bookkeep every transaction that I incur, which means
you bought a coffee before set.
I bought a coffee, take a photo of the receipt, send it to my QuickBooks. Like it's like
you bought
every
a pack
single
of
thing.
Gum.
I bought batteries at Canadian Tire, QuickBooks. So yeah, during tax season, it's like a whole other thing. Like I don't get a T4 like a full-time would. I don't even know what I get. So T2 something.
2A something.
2A, yeah. So I don't know.
Something.
See, clearly I've been doing this for 4 years and I still don't know the name of it, but that's fine because I have an accountant and that it's all taken care of on that end. So
basically, if you work full-time or freelance, get an accountant. But taxes apart, because that's a whole other thing. Like we're not here to talk about taxes. We're here about making money and the consistency of money. And like I think when it comes to the full-time side of things, there's the biggest difference. I mean, I can speak for both. I was also technically freelance for 3 or 4 years. And like the difference is with full-time or, you know, just being employed by someone else, it's not even just full-time. Even if you are a part-time creative, I don't know how that would work. But if you are employed by someone, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You're on a salary. You're consistently, you know where the money is. You know when you're going to have money to spend on things.
Yep.
You're not really sitting there wondering when you're freelancing, if you don't have any gigs in a month, you're not making any money.
Winter is like a really icky time for a lot of freelancers. The end of December, January, kind of February time is when businesses are thinking about, okay, what are we going to do this year? And it's a bunch of planning and reflecting and new budgets, which is great, but it's a lot of like, you know, waiting. And so on those slower months, it's scary sometimes. Like I'll be super transparent. It's like, okay, well, this week I made a whole $0, but maybe next week I signed something that's like $5,000 and I'm like, oh, okay. And
I got my rent.
Like I got my rent and way more than just
groceries.
My rent.
Yeah. I've got a lot of money.
It's definitely something that you have to remember. If you are consistently putting yourself out there and you're working on your marketing, you're networking with people, the jobs will come. Like it's just somehow you have to reassure yourself that even though you made $0 1 week or even in a month, because January was quite scary for me and I definitely don't like live within my means in the current year. I live within my means of my previous year. And that is only because that's all I know. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do, hopefully I don't do worse, but the goal is to at least do the same, like on par with what I did in the previous year. And if I make more, great, then I have more savings. Basically, that's like kind of my mentality.
You get to play a lot more with like how you move money around and how you sustain it, where you spend it. Because it depends on how much, like when you're in those good months too. And I think that's a really big difference. It's like your income this is a good and a bad thing. When you're freelance, your income is coming. It's going up. It's going down. Sometimes it can go really up. Like depending on the clients you get. Like
roller coaster.
You might be making like you're going to be in a different tax bracket every year because like one year you may have made $80,000. The next year you were like, oh my God, I made $120,000. And like it changes a lot of things. For full time, it's like I have a salary. I know how much I'm going to make, which is a good thing because I know how much I can allot of every month. So this is my rent money. This is what I'm going to spend on groceries. This is how much money I have for like my own trips and my own for savings and to pay off student debt. Like there's a lot. So I have that peace of mind knowing that like every single month I'm making X amount of dollars. But at the same time, it doesn't really leave you for wiggle room in case you want to do spend more. You're always held by this cap.
Right.
So it's kind of like this game of like you're getting a lot of consistent pay and it's really good. But the flip side is you're never really going to go over that cap.
Yeah, that's
do you
fair.
Know what I mean?
Unless you take on other
freelance stuff. And like and sometimes like for me, I still freelance on the side. I do weddings. We do the occasional like creative shoot. I kind of only stay in the sports lane. Yeah. Sometimes help out in other sets. But like for me, I'm already shooting or I'm already working 7 days in a week, I want to take my 2 days off to relax.
Yeah.
So it's like, like for me, it's like the money has to be really worth it.
Yeah.
Like, or the opportunity has to be really worth it for me to go and eventually maybe have a 1 day weekend type week, you know, because it's still a work day for me, even though it's not for my full-time job. But there are other ways around that. And I think for me, it's like being on YouTube. There's that added revenue stream. Digital products. That's a really good added revenue stream. That's for me. It's like being full-time. And this is also for freelance. I'm like, you're doing this is for your YouTube channel, but like you're able to add income streams. So like while my full-time job pays for my rent, I have my YouTube channel, which I'm now monetized. I sell digital LUTs. I sell like presets.
And those are all passive.
And it's all passive. You don't do anything like affiliates. I paid my rent for the first time using my digital products like 2 months ago. I'm at like 2 months straight of paying my rent just on that alone, which is really nice because then I know I have X amount of other dollars that's coming from my full-time job that I can, now I save that $14.75 that I pay for rent and I can use it on a camera gear or maybe on, you know, a nice jacket or like something, you know what I mean? So there's ways around getting that cap, but for the most part, especially if you're not doing YouTube, if you're not doing creative endeavors that can give you additional revenue streams, you're kind of just held at that cap of X amount of money is how much I make. And that is how much I can spend or should budget within a year.
Yep, exactly. And I feel like whenever I do feel like a spike of something, it's hard not to get like money happy or like trigger happy because it's like, oh, like I just got this sick job. I can go and buy a red Komodo because I can. And it's like, okay, hold on.
But you don't need
back to the whole thing of take the average because then January I'll make 0 and maybe August I'll make a boat ton.
Like, I wish I didn't spend that money.
Yeah. So that's why I live within the means of the previous year because then I know the average and I'm like, okay, like if that's the way it's going to continue to go, then we're good. If you freelance and you're really nervous about it, what I did in terms of like feeling like I was stable was especially to the point of moving out, because when you start paying rent and you have bills to pay, you have your phone bill, you have all these things, right? Especially like if you are in the freelance space for video, you have all these subscriptions, you have QuickBooks, you have Milanote, you have Adobe, you have, so especially when you move out, you have your new internet bill and there's definitely things that add up. You have your car insurance,
groceries.
Groceries,
for context, like I didn't move out until I got my full-time job.
Yeah.
And then I got the job and then I was just like, okay, like I'm making adult money now. I can sustain a semi-adult life.
Yep.
And I was able to do it when I was freelancing. And again, very different degree of freelancing than her, but like I was not willing to take, it's a risk you have to take.
Yeah, it's a very scary risk, I think. And the only way that I told myself like, okay, you know what, this is the move that I'm going to make is when I had, to be honest, at least like 6 to 8 months of rent, like saved.
Yep.
And in Toronto, that's a lot. So like for me, when I did move out, that's my recommendation. I think I almost had a year of rent saved because then I'm like, you know what? I have no worries.
If we get into another pandemic, God forbid, like, you have all the money saved up. Like, I mean, that's in general, even if you're like just starting in like a full-time job, I would even say like have 6 months of rent saved if you're trying to move out.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, pandemic sports for me, I lost jobs. I lost like one of my like part-time jobs because of the pandemic. So like, again, I work in sports. If there's no sports playing, there's no money being made. I don't make money. So like, it's the same for all. Like, but like, I think just regardless of which one you choose, be careful with your money. Yeah. Don't just go buy that Raptor or whatever, or like that red.
You don't need it.
Yeah. Be smart with your money. You know what I mean? I think that's just, there's not really a massive difference in terms of how you're going to make money either way. It's just in different instances, different spurts. But like, I think the message we're trying to get across here is like, just because you work full time doesn't mean you can go buy everything you want. And just because you make like $15K off of a video gig doesn't mean you can go buy, like, you should be smart with your money.
Yeah. And actually one more tip that I will explain on the freelance side, it's not actually only about like buying gear. It's how can I expand my crew? And so like when I land a really big job, let's say the job's like 7K and I'm like, okay, sick. But I quoted them for a producer, 2 camera operators, a sound and editing and color. So I'm like, okay, I have 5 other people to pay. Like I have myself to pay, and then I have 5 other people to pay.
Everyone's
right?
Gotta eat.
I love lighting, but do I have all of the lighting equipment in the world? No. So like I'm going to hire people that...
She also borrows that from me.
Yeah, I do. Proudly. I'm very happy that I can borrow.
It's interesting because I don't get to use it as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
Because I'm editing, but that's a whole other.
Yeah, that's true though. Yeah, so on the freelance side, it's like if you are going to quote for projects, make sure that like you're eating and you're good. And then if something happens, right, like just know that you have the skill sets to then say, okay, in this job, I have an editor, a colorist, and like a camera A. Okay, maybe I can take those 3 on if I'm hurting this month and pay myself those and only bring on sound and only bring on a lighter, like a gaffer. You know what I mean? So it's actually, it's not even about buying the physical things. It's like, okay, how can I improve the video but still feel okay on my end, right? Like in hiring other people.
This is the whole thing of when you're freelancing, you're doing everything. In this case, you're also the accountant and the book balancer, and you're making sure, you know what I mean? Versus me, I don't worry about it. I work every 2 weeks, the paycheck hits.
Yep.
So I don't have to worry about that. But again, that's just a whole other thing as to why these lines of work and these styles of work and lifestyles are different.
Yep. Nice.